on Trilogy, 5 love letters, but how many love triangles? I read this series To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. So in it we have fake dating, awkward moments, and a wedding. But are the books really worth the hype? Let's dive in and find out.
How many boys have I loved before? Do I still love you? Is this always and forever?
In this video, we're going to deep dive into the series To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which also includes P.S. I Still Love You and Always and Forever, Lara Jean. Now, this series is a pretty iconic YA romance, but is it still worth reading in 2025? Let's find out. Now, before we start, as usual, I have done a few visual nods to the series and to each individual book. See if you can catch them all. So, the first book in the series is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This book centres on Lara Jean Covey. Lara Jean is a quiet, conscientious, very sweet girl. She falls in love really easily and gets lost in her own imagination quite a lot. Secretly, she writes letters to all the boys she's ever had a crush on. She hides these letters in a hat box in her room. But what happens when those letters get sent out without Lara Jean knowing? So, what are some of my favourite parts of the book? I love the fact that Lara Jean was a bit of a dreamer and in her own head quite a lot. I identified with that, especially when I was younger. She's also really sweet and very family orientated, and the book is so much richer for it because of all the family plot lines are really cute. I love the premise of the fact that Lara Jean writes these letters as a way of basically saying goodbye to her past crushes. It's a way to kind of exercise her feelings of those people. As you can imagine, that leads to some very awkward encounters once the letters are sent out. There is a great use of the fake dating trope in this book, and as an added bonus, it's done in a high school setting. I do find that trope always works really well in a school environment. In addition, you get lots of potential boy matches for Lara Jean, so you do get that wonder of who she might end up with. And here are some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. You could say that one of the characters, Peter, is slightly arrogant at certain points in the book. However, that does sound like a typical teenage boy to me, so... In addition, he does have his good points. You do wonder where certain people's loyalties lie at certain points. And also you do get secondhand embarrassment on Lara Jean's behalf when the letters get sent out. Here are some of my favourite quotes from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. You'd rather make up a fantasy version of somebody in your head than be with a real person. I don't want to be with a boy whose heart belongs to somebody else. Just once, I want to be somebody else's first choice. If love is like a possession, maybe my letters are like my exorcisms. I'll do the star ratings of the books towards the end of the video, plus the summaries of the books and the series overall. But before we go, just make sure you've got all the nods to the book. So the next book in the series is P.S. I Still Love You. Now, spoiler alert, from now on, this is your friendly warning. If you have not read up to this point in the book, then some of the natural plot lines may give away some of the storylines. You have been warned. So, P.S. I Still Love You is an immediate follow-on to the events from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Lara is still a bit confused with her feelings towards Peter when another boy from her past comes back into her life, which makes things even messier. Is this a love triangle we see? So what are some of my favourite parts of the book? The introduction of John Ambrose McLaren opens up the possibility of a love triangle between him, Lara and Peter. And who doesn't love a love triangle? This book feels very teenagey, and I mean that in a really good way. It really does get the first stages of crushes and romantic relationships, particularly from a girl's perspective. I think it's done really well, and I do think it's very realistic actually. I feel like Peter's character comes across a lot better in this book, and I really like some of his actions for and towards Lara. And here are some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. A large part of this book actually focuses on Bellevue, which is like a care home where Lara Jean works, and a character there called Stormy. I just didn't find these parts were that interesting, unfortunately, to me. There is a lot of baking, not only in this particular book, but throughout the series, and honestly, it just makes me want to eat cake. In fact, I might eat a cake right now. Any excuse to eat a cake, eh? Here are some of my favourite quotes from P.S. I Still Love You. I say, in the contract we said we wouldn't break each other's hearts. What if we do it again? Fiercely, he says, what if we do? If we're so guarded, it's not going to be anything. Let's do it for real, Lara Jean. Let's go all in. No more contract, no more safety net. You can break my heart. Do whatever you want with it. So much of love is chance. There's something scary and wonderful about that. If two people are meant to be, they'll find their way to each other. And finally, the last book in the series is Always and Forever, Lara Jean. Always and Forever Lara Jean is set around the time that Lara Jean and her friends are choosing colleges and thinking past high school, basically. There are some tough choices to be made, and is that the sound of wedding bells I hear? So, what are some of the good parts of the book? As mentioned, there is a wedding to prepare and organise for. In this book in particular, you can really see Peter's growth throughout the series. He is a great male romantic lead. As mentioned, the main characters are now at the stage where they're choosing colleges and having to make some tough choices. This is like their first foray into the adult world, and therefore the implications of that as well. Not everything is perfect in this book, and I really appreciate that. I do find a lot of books just focus on the main characters getting absolutely everything they want, and I'm sorry, that's just not real life. Life has its surprises in both good and bad ways. I also really liked the ending, and therefore the ending of the series overall. And now here are some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. I do find sometimes in a series, the first book is actually quite hard to live up to, because the initial premise, say for example in this case it's the love letters, are quite hard to live up to, and you can't just keep repeating the same formula. So in particular, this book is quite different from the initial book. However, I did like this book, and I liked the storylines within it. For example, the choosing of colleges and making those tough decisions. There are definitely challenges, and it does show that they're growing up, and I actually really like that. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Always and Forever, Lara Jean. I suppose I'll say it all started with a love letter. To love a boy, to have him love you back, it feels miraculous. For the briefest of moments, his eyes search mine, and I know he's looking for reassurance. That's when I put my arms around him and hug him tight to me, tight enough that he knows I'm here. I won't let go. So now we've come to the point where I decide whether I've liked the series overall. So I'm going to summarise each book. To All the Boys I've Loved Before was easily my favourite book of the series. Lara Jean was such a great character, and I really liked the premise of the letters being sent out to her previous crushes. You get the awkward moments, fake dating, and some insecurity. I thought this book was fabulous, and I rated it 3.5 stars. I thought it was a really strong start to the series. Book number 2 was P.S. I Still Love You. Unfortunately, this was easily my least favourite book of the series. A lot of the time was spent in Bellevue, which was like a care home that Lara Jean worked in, and I just wasn't excited by that, unfortunately. The good points of the book, though, were the introduction of John Ambrose from McLaren and the possible love triangle, and I rated the book a 3-star. And finally, we have book number 3, Always and Forever, Lara Jean. This book had a more mature feel to it, with the college applications and the realities of a longer term relationship and some of the issues they pose. I also did like the change of personal circumstance, and I thought it inserted like a fresh perspective into already beloved characters. I liked the ending of the series too, and I rated the book a 3.25 stars. But the big question is, do I think this series still holds up in 2025? Yes, I do. I think as well, if you yourself are a young adult, you'll really appreciate the first flushes of love and romance and that sort of time of your life. The To All the Boys I've Loved Before series is a sweet, cute, warm, young adult romance, and if it sounds appealing to you, I would definitely recommend you pick it up. Now before we go, I'm going to go through all the nods of each individual book, but first of all I'm going to do the universal nods for the series as a whole. So to start off with, we have the notebook, the pencil, and the envelopes, all for the letter writing within the series. Plus we have the heart for the romance, and the cakes and the tarts here because there actually is a lot of baking throughout the series as well. The nods to All the Boys I've Loved Before were the dog, the fox, and the pickle, all for the fact that there is a dog in the book called, wait for it, Jamie Fox Pickle. The Christmas items, as the ending of the book is around Christmas time, and the car, as there is a car accident in the book. For P.S. I Still Love You, we had the following nods: the camera, the pool, which was a hot tub for one particular plotline, the cloud, as there is a character called Stormy, and the flowers, as there is a sweet scene involving some. And finally, the nods for Always and Forever Lara Jean were the mortarboard for the college mentions, the seaside picture, sandcastle and palm tree, as Lara Jean takes a vacation, and the birthday cake, as there is a cute scene with one involved. Thank you. Yeah, I don't need you talking to me whilst I'm trying to film. I know, it's hard. It's very hard to read, to talk whilst you're... Yeah, do you want to be in the film? I have a visitor. Oh, thank you. If you have enjoyed this video, please do let me know by liking and subscribing. It really does help out the channel. The To All the Boys I've Loved Before series was written by author Jenny Han, and if you like this series, I think you'll like this video here of The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is written by the same author.